Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here with you today, and it's my intent to offer some reflections that are deeply relevant as we prepare to celebrate Christmas, a time saturated with meaning, both personal and transcendent. Too often we race through this season with our focus on everything but the essence of what Christmas represents. Let me implore you, don't miss the Lord this Christmas. Christmas is not merely a cultural event or an excuse for celebration. It's a moment to reflect on the extraordinary story of Christ's birth, a child born in humility, in a stable amidst chaos, yet destined to transform the world. That's not just an ancient narrative. It's a reflection of hope breaking through darkness, of divine purpose arriving unexpectedly. Are we truly allowing this story to guide our thoughts and actions? We live in an era of unparalleled distraction. Lights, gifts, endless parties, and digital noise can consume the weeks leading up to Christmas. These are not inherently bad, but ask yourself, are they diverting your heart from the sacred? It's not just about doing less, it's about recalibrating your focus. Are you prioritizing what's eternal over what's fleeting? Or at its core, Christmas is a celebration of an undeserved gift. The arrival of Christ is an invitation to deep gratitude, a gratitude that shifts our perspective and reshapes our lives. It's not about having everything, it's about recognizing the profound grace that has already been given. How often do we pause to say, thank you? Christmas is not just a historical moment, it's a personal invitation. The coming of Christ beckons each of us toward renewal, to reconsider who we are and what we're called to become. Are you willing to let this season transform you? Will you let the message of Christ's birth illuminate the dark corners of your life? We've heard this before, but let's press deeper. Presence isn't just about being with loved ones. It's about showing up for God, fully engaged. It's about setting aside time to pray, to worship, and to dwell on the divine. The presents we exchange pale in comparison to the gift of being fully present with the one who came for us. Christmas calls us to action. The birth of Christ is a reminder that light entered the world, and it is now our privilege to share that light. Whether through acts of kindness, words of encouragement, or living out faith in visible ways, we're tasked with reflecting the light of Christ. How will you share it this Christmas? Let me challenge you. This Christmas, don't just go through the motions. Don't settle for shallow celebrations or distractions. Instead, engage deeply with the profound truth of the season. Embrace the story. Confront the distractions. Practice gratitude. Seek renewal. Prioritize presence. And share the light. Christmas is not merely a cultural event or an excuse for celebration. It is a moment to reflect on an extraordinary story that carries profound implications for humanity. The birth of Christ is not just a quaint tale we tell ourselves during the festive season. It is a cornerstone of history, a narrative that continues to resonate across centuries and cultures. This is the story of God entering into the world in the most unexpected and humble way imaginable. Not with fanfare or worldly power, but as a vulnerable child born in a stable, surrounded by simplicity and scarcity. Cause and effect, giver and receiver, spouse and husband, spouse and wife. Think for a moment about the context of that birth. A young mother, far from home, delivering her child in a setting that lacked even the most basic comforts. Shepherds, ordinary, overlooked people, were the first to hear the good news. Wise men traveled great distances, compelled by a sign, to offer gifts to a newborn they recognized as a king. But every element of this story speaks of a deeper reality, the profound grace of God choosing to meet humanity not in grandeur, but in humility, not through conquest, but through love. Aside from the conquest, there is no gladiator story here. This is a night and day post-Heller. This is more than a historical event. It's a reflection of divine hope breaking into human despair. It's the assurance that even in the darkest and most chaotic circumstances, there is a light that shines through, offering purpose and redemption. The birth of Christ is a reminder that life is not random, that there is a plan, and that we are not alone. Yet how often do we allow this central story to be eclipsed by the noise of the season? We let the hustle of preparation, the pressure of perfection, and the glittering allure of materialism obscure the significance of what we are celebrating. If we reduce Christmas to mere tradition, we miss the transformational power of the story. This story isn't meant to be merely admired or remembered, it's meant to be lived. It is an invitation to embrace the kind of humility, love, and hope that Christ embodied. It's a call to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to recognize divine purpose in unexpected places, and to carry that truth into our lives. So I urge you to pause, reflect. Don't let the central story of Christmas become a background narrative in your celebrations. Let it shape your understanding, your gratitude, and your actions, because this story, at its heart, is the greatest gift ever given, and it is one we cannot afford to overlook. In today's world, we are surrounded by an overwhelming number of distractions. And during the Christmas season, these distractions seem to multiply. The endless advertisements, the rush of holiday shopping, the perfectly curated social media posts, the countless events and gatherings, all of these vie for our attention. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of activities, losing sight of the deeper meaning of this season. And yet, these distractions, while often enjoyable and even well-intentioned, can become obstacles that pull us away from the essence of Christmas. The challenge is not that these things are inherently bad. Traditions, celebrations, and the joy of giving are all valuable aspects of the season, but they can become a problem when they dominate our time, energy, and focus to the extent that we forget why we are celebrating in the first place. And that's when we obsess over finding the perfect gifts, hosting the perfect dinner, or meeting every social obligation, we risk turning Christmas into a performance rather than an opportunity for reflection and renewal. Distractions also come in the form of internal noise. The anxieties of the season, worrying about money, pleasing others, or meeting expectations can cloud our minds and weigh heavily on our hearts. Instead of embracing the peace and joy that Christmas offers, we allow ourselves to be consumed by stress and comparison. We measure ourselves against unrealistic ideals and forget that Christmas is not about perfection. It's about grace. Even the seemingly innocent act of celebrating can distract us if we let it become an end in itself. Beautiful decorations, festive meals, and joyful gatherings are all wonderful, but they should point us toward the deeper significance of the season rather than replace it. When we focus solely on the surface level trappings, we risk missing the profound spiritual truth that lies at the heart of Christmas, the coming of Christ into the world, a gift of immeasurable love and hope. To confront these distractions, we must be intentional. It requires us to pause and evaluate where our energy is going and whether it aligns with the purpose of the season. Are we spending more time in crowded malls or on endless online searches than we are in quiet reflection or meaningful connection? Are we prioritizing external appearances over internal preparation? Are we so caught up in our own busyness that we fail to recognize the needs of those around us? Confronting distractions also means creating space for what truly matters. This might mean setting aside time each day to pray, meditate, or simply sit in silence, allowing ourselves to be reminded of the sacredness of this season. It could mean simplifying our plans or saying no to activities that do not bring us closer to the heart of Christmas. It might involve intentionally focusing on acts of kindness and generosity, turning our attention outward rather than inward. Confronting distractions is about reclaiming the essence of Christmas. It's about refusing to let the noise drown out the still, small voice that calls us to remember why we celebrate. It's about centering our hearts and minds on the message of hope, peace, and love that Christ brings. When we make that choice, we allow Christmas to become not just a busy season, but a transformative experience. Gratitude is at the very heart of Christmas, yet it is often overshadowed by the demands and distractions of the season. This is a time when we are invited to pause and reflect on the immense gift that has been given to us, the gift of Christ, the embodiment of God's love and grace. But how often do we truly stop to appreciate the significance of this gift? How often do we let gratitude fill our hearts and shape our actions, rather than simply rushing through the motions of the holiday? Gratitude begins with recognizing the magnitude of what Christmas represents. In the birth of Christ, we see the ultimate expression of love, God entering into our world not with power and spectacle, but in humility and vulnerability. This act of selfless love is not something we could ever earn or deserve. It is a gift freely given. Reflecting on this truth should move us to a deep sense of thankfulness, not just for what has been done for humanity as a whole, but for what has been done for each of us personally, and where that truth originated, and what serves to awaken and commit us to. To embrace gratitude during this season, we must first cultivate awareness. It's easy to take things for granted, especially in a world that often encourages us to focus on what we lack rather than what we have. The relentless pressure to achieve, to acquire, and to compare ourselves to others can blind us to the blessings that surround us. But gratitude requires a deliberate shift in perspective. It calls us to look beyond the material and the superficial, to recognize the many ways in which we are already abundantly blessed. Gratitude also grows when we acknowledge the small, everyday gifts that we often overlook. The warmth of a home, the laughter of loved ones, the beauty of a winter morning. These are moments of grace that deserve our attention. Even in seasons of difficulty, there are still reasons to be grateful. The kindness of a friend, the support of a community, or the quiet strength that comes from faith. When we train ourselves to notice and appreciate these moments, we begin to see the world through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity. Gratitude is not just an internal feeling, it is also an outward expression. True gratitude compels us to act. When we recognize how much we have been given, we are inspired to give to others in return. This might take the form of generosity, sharing our time, resources, and love with those in need. It might also mean simply being present for others, offering encouragement, or showing kindness in ways that reflect the grace we have received. Christi zele. Gratitude transforms us into channels of blessing, allowing the joy of Christmas to flow through us to those around us. Embracing the call to gratitude also means acknowledging the giver. It's not enough to simply feel thankful. We must direct that thankfulness toward the one who is the source of all good things. This is a time to turn our hearts to God in praise, to thank Him for His faithfulness, and to celebrate the gift of Christ with awe and wonder. Gratitude deepens our relationship with God, reminding us of His presence and His unfailing love. Gratitude brings with it a profound sense of peace. When we focus on what we have rather than what we lack, when we recognize the abundance of grace in our lives, we find contentment. Gratitude quiets the noise of comparison and the restlessness of striving, replacing them with a sense of fulfillment and joy. This Christmas, let us embrace the call to gratitude fully. Let us open our eyes to the blessings around us. Let us give generously from the abundance we have received, and let us turn our hearts toward God in thanksgiving. In doing so, we will not only honor the true meaning of the season, but also experience its transformative power in our lives. Christmas is not just a celebration of the past, it is an invitation to renewal in the present. The birth of Christ is a profound declaration that change is possible, that new beginnings can emerge even in the most challenging circumstances. This season calls us to step back from the rush and routine of life, to reflect on who we are becoming, and who we are called to be. The story of Christ's birth is filled with images of renewal. Consider Mary and Joseph, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, stepping into a divine plan they could not fully understand. Think of the shepherds, overlooked and underestimated, suddenly called to witness a miracle and carry the news to others. Reflect on the Magi, who left behind comfort and familiarity to follow a star, seeking truth and wisdom in an unexpected place. Each of these figures was invited into a journey of transformation, and their lives were forever changed. This same invitation extends to us today. Christmas is not simply a time to celebrate what happened long ago. It is a moment to encounter Christ personally and allow His presence to transform our hearts. It's an opportunity to examine the areas of our lives that have grown stagnant or misaligned, and to invite God to bring new life to them. Renewal begins with an honest acknowledgement of where we are, a recognition of our struggles, our shortcomings, and our need for grace. Renewal also requires a willingness to let go of what no longer serves us. Sometimes we cling to old habits, resentments, or fears, even when they weigh us down and hold us back. Christmas reminds us that we do not have to carry these burdens alone. The birth of Christ is a message of hope, that light has come into the darkness, that love has overcome fear, and that we are not defined by our past. We are invited to release what binds us and to step forward into a future shaped by grace. This season also challenges us to embrace growth. Renewal is not a passive process. It requires action and intention. Just as Christ's birth was an invitation for humanity to draw closer to God, so too are we called to take steps toward Him. This might mean deepening our spiritual practices, seeking forgiveness and reconciliation, or simply creating space in our lives to listen for God's voice. Renewal asks us to be open to change, even when it is uncomfortable, trusting that it will lead to greater freedom and purpose. Renewal is not just about personal transformation, it is about how we engage with the world around us. The birth of Christ is a reminder that God's plan for renewal is not limited to individuals. It is for all of creation. As we are renewed, we are called to participate in the renewal of our communities, our relationships, and our environments. The release is called democracy, and we have the power to change the way our communities and our environments. This could mean offering kindness where there has been bitterness, working for justice where there is injustice, or simply bringing light and love to the spaces we inhabit. At its core, the invitation to renewal is an invitation to align our lives more closely with the values and example of Christ. It is a call to live with humility, compassion, and courage, to prioritize what truly matters, and to let our actions reflect the hope and peace that Christmas represents. This Christmas, don't let the season pass by without accepting this invitation. Take the time to reflect, to let go of what holds you back, and to embrace the opportunity for growth and transformation. Just as Christ's birth marked the beginning of a new chapter for the world, let this season mark the beginning of a new chapter for you. A chapter defined by renewal, grace, and purpose. In a world that often equates value with material things, Christmas can quickly become a season dominated by the pursuit of presents. The pressure to find the perfect gift, to meet expectations, and to participate in the commercialization of the holiday can overwhelm the deeper meaning of the season. While giving gifts can be a beautiful expression of love, it is important to remember that what truly matters is presence. Not just the physical act of being there, but the quality of how we show up for others and for God. At its core, prioritizing presence is about connection. It's about being fully engaged, attentive, and mindful in our interactions with those around us. In a time when distractions abound, this can be a challenge. We often find ourselves multitasking, scrolling through our phones, or mentally planning the next event, even while we're in the company of loved ones. But Christmas is a unique opportunity to slow down and truly be with one another. It's a time to set aside the busyness of life and focus on the relationships that bring meaning and joy to our days. Presence is also about listening, really listening. It's about hearing the stories, hopes, and struggles of those we care about without rushing to offer solutions or turn the conversation back to ourselves. This kind of presence fosters intimacy and understanding, creating moments that are far more memorable and meaningful than any physical gift. When we prioritize presence, we also give a priceless gift to ourselves, the ability to fully experience the moment. Too often, we're so preoccupied with what's next that we miss the beauty of what's right in front of us. By choosing to be present, we open ourselves to the simple joys of the season, the laughter of children, the warmth of a shared meal, the quiet peace of a candlelit evening. These moments are fleeting, but their impact can last a lifetime if we are attentive enough to truly experience them. This principle of presence extends beyond our interactions with others to our relationship with God. Amidst the noise and activity of the season, it can be easy to neglect time spent in prayer, reflection, and worship. Yet, the very heart of Christmas is an invitation to draw closer to God, to reflect on the miracle of Christ's birth, and to deepen our understanding of His love for us. Being present with God requires setting aside intentional time, whether through attending a church service, reading scripture, or simply sitting in quiet gratitude for the gift of His presence in our lives. Presence is also about recognizing the sacred in the ordinary. Christmas reminds us that God entered the world in a humble and unassuming way, showing us that holiness is often found in the simplest of places. By being present, we allow ourselves to see the divine in the mundane, to appreciate the beauty of a shared laugh, a heartfelt conversation, or even a moment of stillness. Choosing presence over presence also challenges us to reconsider our priorities. It invites us to focus less on accumulating things and more on cultivating relationships. Instead of asking, "What can I give?" we might ask, "How can I be there for someone?" This shift not only simplifies our approach to the season, but also enriches it, as we begin to see that our time, attention, and love are the most valuable gifts we can offer. Ultimately, prioritizing presence is a choice to live out the true meaning of Christmas. It's a decision to honor the example of Christ, who came not with material wealth, but with the gift of his presence, his love, and his sacrifice. When we follow his example, we create a season that is not defined by what we give or receive, but by the connections we nurture and the love we share. This Christmas, let us resist the pull of materialism and instead focus on the gift of presence. Let us show up fully for the people in our lives, draw closer to God, and open our hearts to the sacredness of the season. In doing so, we will discover that presence, both given and received, is the greatest gift of all. Christmas is a season of light, a celebration of the moment when divine hope entered a dark world. This light, embodied in the birth of Christ, is not meant to be kept to ourselves. It is meant to be shared. The call to share the light is an invitation to reflect the love, hope, and grace of Christ in our actions, our words, and our presence, allowing that light to reach others who may be in need of encouragement, kindness, or hope. Sharing the light begins with recognizing the significance of the light itself. The birth of Christ is more than a historical event. It is a declaration that darkness does not have the final word. It is a message of redemption, renewal, and transformation. When we internalize this truth, it fills us with a sense of purpose and gratitude, compelling us to live in a way that reflects the light we have received. The light of Christ is not something to be hidden or hoarded. It is a gift that grows stronger and brighter as it is shared. One of the most powerful ways to share the light is through acts of kindness and generosity. In a world where so many feel burdened, unseen, or unloved, even small gestures can make a significant difference. A simple act of kindness, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or a thoughtful gesture can remind someone that they are not alone, that there is goodness in the world, and that they are valued. These acts don't have to be grand or elaborate, they just need to be genuine. Sharing the light also means being present for others, especially those who may be struggling during the holiday season. For many, Christmas is not an easy time. It can be marked by feelings of loneliness, grief, or unmet expectations. By reaching out to those who are hurting, by offering a listening ear or a comforting presence, we become bearers of light in their darkness. Sometimes, just being there, fully, intentionally, can be the most profound gift we can offer. Another way to share the light is through forgiveness and reconciliation. Christmas reminds us of the immense grace we have received, and it challenges us to extend that grace to others. Holding on to anger, resentment, or bitterness dims the light within us and creates barriers in our relationships. By choosing to forgive, we not only free ourselves, but also create space for healing and restoration, allowing light to shine in places where there was once division. Sharing the light is also about living with integrity and authenticity. People are drawn to light, and our actions and attitudes can serve as a beacon to those around us. When we live with compassion, humility, and a commitment to doing what is right, we inspire others to do the same. Our lives can become a reflection of the light of Christ, illuminating the path for others and encouraging them to seek the source of that light for themselves. Moreover, sharing the light extends beyond personal interactions. It involves contributing to the broader good. This might mean supporting causes that align with the values of justice, mercy, and love that Christ exemplifies. It could involve volunteering, giving to those in need, or working to create a more equitable and compassionate community. Sharing the light in this way allows the impact of our actions to ripple outward, touching lives we may never even meet. As the evangelist said, the light of the lamp has the power to rescue from evil those who cry out, touching lives we may never even meet. Sharing the light is not always easy. There are times when the darkness of the world feels overwhelming, when our own struggles make it difficult to see the light, let alone share it. But it is in these moments that the light becomes most powerful. Even a small flicker can dispel the deepest darkness. When we choose to share the light despite challenges or hardships, we bear witness to the resilience of hope and the enduring power of love.